Jared Blade, testing 1, 2, 3, Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Just let us know when you're ready, Declan.
Oh, good.
Wait for Declan. Declan's ready? Everyone's ready?
Declan's ready?
All right, let's do it.
All right. Oh, good. Good morning, Jared Blade, Deputy Leader of the Opposition, joined by Shadow Minister Tim Mander, who will talk shortly about the housing crisis we have in Queensland. I want to make some opening remarks today about the youth crime crisis we have. No matter where David Crisafulli, the Leader of the Opposition, and I and our team go across Queensland, we're getting feedback that Queenslanders are absolutely sick and tired of the youth crime crisis. We're hearing the feedback that they are absolutely scared of this youth crime crisis that we have in the state. Only yesterday we joined Emma, who had the car stolen from her front yard that she'd saved up for and she was going to give to her 18-year-old son on his 18th birthday. So time and time again, whereas at the Gold Coast yesterday, the Sunshine Coast where I'm from, the Redlands this morning where I was at a breakfast, I'm getting feedback that people are sick and tired of the youth crime crisis we have in the state. Sickening yesterday to see a young boy riding his bike on the side of a road and was hit and thrown some 10 metres in the air. This is where we have got to in Queensland now. People in some areas are afraid to go out at night. And now you've just got people on the side of the road, a young boy yesterday, absolutely devastating to see the footage and sickening to see the footage that people that were trying to evade police hit the young boy. And obviously that's now subject to an investigation, but it's just sickening to see what we're seeing across the state. What is it going to take for this government to act on youth crime, on crime generally? There has to be consequences for actions. And there's also got to be consequences for when the Labor Party watered down our youth justice laws. The first bill the Labor Party introduced into Parliament in 2015 when they won office was to reform the youth justice laws and get rid of all the strong laws dealing with youth justice. And it is it any wonder 8 years later that we're seeing all these issues of youth crime across the state? What tragedy is it going to take for this government to take action? Over 17,000 Queenslanders have had their cars stolen. We've seen assaults in some of the regions go up. Time and time again, people are pleading with this Labor government to act on youth crime crisis, and they're not doing anything about it. And they have to be held accountable for the consequences of watering down the laws as they have done in the past 8 years. This government has had more positions on youth crime than a bad game of Twister. Absolutely. And I've seen it. I have been in Parliament this last 8 years watching the Labor Party water down crime laws across Queensland, and Queenslanders are suffering because of it. Not only the incident we saw yesterday, but I was at the Redland Bay this morning. We had the Leadbetters down there. It is happening all across our regions in Queensland. The other thing I want to remark on today is, interestingly, I saw former Premier Peter Beattie make commentary about succession plans for this government. Seriously, the Labor Party are talking about succession plans. We're here talking about youth crime. Tim Mander's behind me going to be talking about the housing crisis. We've got a cost of living crisis in Queensland. Registrations going up, car registrations going up, fuels going up, costs of living pressures are exploding, interest rates are going up, mortgage rates are going up, energy prices are going up, electricity is going up. And this government are at internal war about who's going to replace Anastasia Palaszczuk. Seriously, they're talking about succession plan. They should be focused on the issues that matter to Queenslanders. They should be focused every day of the week on trying to come up with solutions to the crime crisis, the housing crisis, the health crisis. And while I'm talking about health crisis, I can advise today and announce that the LNP will be hosting its 28th Health Town Forum at Toowoomba next Monday. These Health Town Forums, which were started by David Crisafulli and Ros Bates, have been giving people a say. They've been giving patients right around Queensland a say. We are getting nurses and doctors coming to the Health Town Forums talking to us about the issues in the health crisis at the moment. So our 28th Health Town Forum will be in Toowoomba next Monday, and we're looking forward. The registrations are already coming in. We're looking forward to talking to the people of Toowoomba about the health crisis. So I'm going to hand over to Tim Mander. He'll take questions on housing, and I'll take any other questions. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Jared. Well, the state government in recent times has made a number of announcements supposedly addressing the housing crisis that we have. They have a program called Help to Home. Well, I can tell you now that there's no help and there's no homes. This announcement that was crowed about 6 months ago said that they would have 1,000 new homes for social housing properties over the next 2 years. Well, we now know that in 6 months they only have 19 properties. In fact, they've only had one additional property in the last 4 months. At that rate, it would take 26 years before they got to their target of 1,000 homes. And what makes this even worse is that they're taking or trying to take these properties from the private rental market. And we all know at the moment that private rental vacancy rates are at the lowest levels probably in history, less than 1%. And here the government is making that crisis worse, trying to solve another aspect of the crisis. This is another dud policy. Last week we heard about the promise to use the Griffith University rooms, and they've been laying there, no work over a couple of months, and it's very unlikely that they'll meet the timetables that they've set as well, if it happens at all. So this government continues to make announcements about the housing crisis, and these announcements and these policies are continuing to prove to be ineffective. Announcements do not house people. What we have to see is action. Happy to answer any questions about that.
The one dwelling is that the 38-unit complex at Longridge? Is that the one you're referring to?
I'm actually not sure, Brendan, what it is. I mean, what is a bit puzzling is that there's 19 properties, and I think they're saying there's around 116 people that have been helped, but I don't know the details of that. They did make, when they made the original announcement, of 18 properties then. So, I mean, one extra property in the last 4 months is obviously nowhere near the target that they set.
Grace this morning said that the government's had a summit, they've got a plan, they've got money behind the plan, and it won't be election by the LNP when it comes to implementing these strategies. What do you say to that?
Well, those people who are sleeping in cars, sleeping in tents, sleeping on couches, they're not interested in talk from the government. What they're interested in is action. And again, this policy is showing that their announcements are dud announcements. I mentioned last week the Greenie Flat announcement. How many extra people are in Greenie Flats today because of the government's announcement? I suspect less than a handful. They're big on announcements. They are absolutely hopeless with regards to delivering solutions.
You got a little bit too early here, though. I mean, it's playing out a couple of years, and the housing takes a while to locate these, build things. Usually it's hard, most of these things come in the second half of that year.
Well, my understanding of this policy was that they were targeting people that had owned private properties already, many of those that would have been designated normally for the private rental market, and 19 in 6 months is a hopeless rate of success. It will take them years to be able to fulfil those 1,000 properties. In fact, I wonder whether that's still their objective and whether they're just silently now retreating from that, knowing that it was a ridiculous policy in the first place.
How many would you like to see by now?
Well, if it's over a 2-year period, you'd like to think at least a quarter of them would be done. But it is woefully less than their targets. But it's a bad policy in the first place. Why would you rob Peter to pay Paul? Why would you take away properties that are designated for the private rental market when we have people there in crisis and try to put them in another part of the crisis? That's not what we need. We need additional houses, both in the social housing sector, the affordable housing sector, and also just new homes. And this government has woefully failed in that area.
Do you think programs should be scrapped or kept in place? Because obviously there's constraints in construction and ratings. So I guess the argument should be that it's it'd be vital to drive up some of those delays.
Well, what I'm saying today is that their track record with the announcements they have made in housing is woeful. They continue to make these big announcements, but there's no substance to it. whether it's the Griffith University units, whether it's the Greenie Flat announcement, whether it's now Help to Home, all these programs are shown to be duds, and that's not helping the most vulnerable Queenslanders who are looking for a roof over their heads.
Thank you, Ed.
Well, I think they should spend less time talking about themselves and more time delivering and governing for Queensland. Fix the health crisis, fix the youth crime crisis, fix the housing crisis. The Labor Party look to be at internal war, whether it's backbenchers attacking the health minister, ministers attacking the health minister. So I just think they should spend less time talking about themselves. The only other comment I'd make, Marlena, is this. If you're talking about succession plan, my goodness gracious, look at the Labor Party, look across the front bench. The future is not looking bright for the Queensland Labor Party, I tell you.
In your opinion, who do you think is looking at this?
Sorry.
In your opinion, who do you think is looking at this?
Sorry, Brendan, the constructions. I heard the question. Look, Labor Party can spend all the time they want in jostling for positions. We know it, we see it. You saw 2 weeks ago in Parliament, they're all on show. The Treasurer, the Deputy Premier, they're all biting for the opportunity. I just wish they were focused on Queenslanders. We're talking about the issues that matter. In Longreach last week, our shadow cabinet was out for 3 days spending time with Western Queenslanders talking about the issues. And I can tell you, as Tim Manders just talked about the housing crisis in southeast Queensland, it's also a housing crisis in Western Queensland and regional Queensland. This is the stuff the government should be concentrating on. But once again, the Labor Party are all focused internally and not on the bigger picture. I would love to see the Youth Justice Minister, for instance, out talking about her solutions for the youth crime crisis, rather than blaming other people, because we see from time to time, and regular in this occasion, the government just blaming everyone else but themselves.
Considering the LNP's executive undermined the last opposition leader you had and even went to dinner on Clive Cutler's yacht, is it a bit rich for the LNP to criticise the Labor Party for backstabbing in the background?
I take the view on any political party that they shouldn't be focused internally. They should be focused on the bigger picture and Queenslanders. And when our side of politics was doing that at the time, I stood up with leadership at the time and called that out. So absolutely, political parties have to focus on the bigger issues. And I think we've shown, particularly in the last couple of years, we are focused on health, the economy, cost of living pressures, the housing crisis. Queenslanders want us to be talking about those things, not ourselves. And that's my advice to the Labor Party. Get the house in order, because if you can't govern yourselves, you can't govern Queensland, and they're clearly not governing themselves. I, quite frankly, don't care who leads the Labor Party in Queensland. I think their policies are bad for Queenslanders. I think they've shown in the last 8 years of the Labor Party administration they are running out of puff. They are not interested in the issues that matter. They are more interested in red carpets, the glitz, the glamour. I think the Premier's checked out. I think her ministers have checked out. I think they're not governing. So I think the best thing for Queenslanders, now we have reached the halfway mark of this election cycle, is to change the government. If you change the government, you'll get better policies in Queensland, and we can finally start addressing the issues that matter to every Queenslander and not internally focused like the Labor Party is at the moment.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Cheers.